Hey guys, Joe here, and today we are taking a look at a LionHeart LH9C pistol. So buckle up, let's get into it, and let's have some fun. If you're new to the channel, thanks for checking it out. Maybe consider getting subscribed down there. You can also maybe hit up my Amazon affiliate link and leave a comment. You'll help the channel grow so that we can check out cool stuff like this. This, as I said, is the LionHeart LH9C pistol. It is the compact version of the LH9. Go ahead and safety check it for you. Nothing in it, nothing in it. Okay, there we go. Some of you may recognize a lot of parts on this pistol. I almost said these pistols, but I only have the one in front of me. But on this pistol in particular, and a lot of people will point out that it looks very much like a Smith & Wesson 59 series. A lot of people will say that it has a lot of Browning parts. A lot of people will say it has like Walther P38 parts. And everybody is right, because funny enough, the LionHeart is loosely based on the South Korean K5 pistol. South Korea, after Colt had been producing 1911s and all their firearms in Korea because cheaper labor and all that good stuff, they decided that the government decided that they wanted to build their own pistol for their police force, military force to use. So they created a pistol that was very much like this one. This is not an exact copy, but very much like this one. So they took elements from like a Smith & Wesson 59. You can definitely see that like in here. They took stuff from the Browning, which you can see like the extractor and the trigger bar. And you'll see inside that they took some ideas from other guns like the P38. And by doing so, they created what turned out to be a pretty solid pistol. And LionHeart decided that that would be a good one to build, because LionHeart didn't just want to jump into the business and make a pistol that's like everybody else's, because then you get lost in the crowd. This gun was introduced at SHOT Show, I believe, in 2013, released in 2014, or late 2013 as a 2014 model. So this is a 6-year-old pistol. And today we're going to check it out, talk about it, and see how it stacks up in today's competitive field of carry pistols. I will point out the first thing you'll notice is that this one is hammer fired. This is not a striker fired pistol. It is also a double action, single action, double action plus pistol. It's a super cool feature, and we'll talk about that in a minute. It is finished in a forged hammered steel, or hammer forged steel for the slide. It has an aluminum frame on it, and it is a really nice piece. It has a lot of high-end stuff done to it that you would expect on more expensive pistols or from more expensive brands. Things like flat topping the barrel so that you can reduce glare is a nice touch. It has real Novak sights on it, which is a nice touch, and it has really nice grips on it, especially for the time. Nice big pyramids that have nice checkering, and it does have front and rear serrations for the straps. However, they're just vertical, which anybody that shoots a lot can tell you it's not always the best thing. You kind of would actually prefer horizontal, because when you're holding a pistol and it rocks back, these serrations aren't going to do much to hold the pistol down. It'll definitely help you when you're going side to side, but last time I checked, pistols don't do that unless you're a gangster. This one has a 10-round magazine with a floor plate that allows you to get your pinky on it, because this again is the compact model, which I personally prefer. I think it fits my hand very well with the floor plate. Without, it's a little bit short. Again, you have to consider when this pistol came out. This pistol came out 5 years before SIG did the 365 with the 10+1. It came out years before Taurus did the G2C the right way and now has 10 or 12+1. At the time of this pistol's release, Sky was just starting to release their pistol, and it would turn out to be an inexpensive, running, reliable-ish pistol that held 10 rounds, but had a horrible, horrible double-action trigger. So this particular gun has a lot of cool features that make it, for its time, almost a little bit ahead of the curve. I'm trying to think of other pistols of the time that were hammer fired with this capacity that you could get for a reasonable price, and not much comes to mind, because 1911s in commander and officer size, again you're talking 7 or less rounds. The Glock 43 6-rounder, the 26 was probably the closest competitor, and I believe that one is a 12+1. It might be a 10+1, but that striker fired and I think was about the same money, so that could be a good competitor. But other than that, the market was not saturated. This one is chambered in 9mm, and it has a nice finished double stack magazine. This is the bag that it comes in. As you can see, it's got a nice LionHeart logo on it, and when you open the bag, you can see inside you get your cleaning kit, you get a rod, you get a brush, an extra magazine, and all the goodies you would expect. This is more like a SIG layout because SIG likes to give out a nice bag for it. As you can see, this is serial number 521, so this is a very early pistol, probably within the first year of manufacturing. Taking a look at the outside, like I said, it does have a lot of Browning, also Walther kind of looking stuff with the trigger bar on this side, the Browning style controls on this side. The safety is opposite from a standard 1911 in that it is the back half of the safety that moves. However, it's very positive. It's also ambidextrous on this pistol. It is a true trigger disconnect safety, so when it is in safe, the trigger is completely dead. And as I was saying, this pistol is what I would call a double action plus. I think that's actually what they call it too. But as you can see, standard out of the box, I'll do it from this side, it is double action to single action. What that means is the first pull is very heavy, very long, but very smooth. Double action, so you can start it with the hammer down. If the gun has another round in it and it resets the hammer, then the gun goes into single action. If you watch the trigger, you'll see it's going to reset a lot sooner. Right there. You can see how much further back the trigger is, allowing you to pull it again. That is most pistols' firing conditions, either double action or double action to single action. This gun has a third party trick. So, you have it set to single action mode. As you can see, it's right there. There's the wall. However, you can actually just flip up the hammer. There's no decocker. You just flip up the hammer. And what that does is it brings the gun back into double action mode, but with no real resistance in the trigger until you bring it back to the wall where single action is. As you can see, it recocks the hammer, but I can let it go. And it stays in single action mode. I'll do that again. So as you can see, single action mode, double action plus mode, so the trigger comes all the way back out, but you can pull it back, almost like a two-stage trigger. Now you're in single action pull, and boom. It's kind of a cool feature, yeah? It has a Beretta style lip here on the front of the trigger guard, so if you two-hand it, you can grab up here, which I tend to do with a compact pistol. It just gives me a little bit more control. One thing I did find that as a southpaw, or if you shoot ambidextrous like I do, the gun is very easy to manipulate with the left side, even though it only has an ambi safety. You can drop the slide no problem with just your index finger. You can drop the safety, you can eject the mag, you can do everything you need to very easy with your left hand. The sight picture, it is a Novak, so as you can see, it's very easy to pick up. It's the traditional style that I like, front dot, nothing on the rear, so it makes it less likely that you're going to try to focus on the rear sight. Yeah, I think that's enough talking about the outside. Let's take a look at the inside. In order to disassemble the firearm, you will need to bring the hammer back, and then you need to bring the slide back to about where your normal notch would be. Now, you are going to run into an issue in that the hammer bar or the trigger bar sits right over the pin. So what you need to do is line up for where the takedown actually would come out, kind of like a Browning or a 1911. And I find if you just use the base pad of your mag and you start the pin, you can then, well, wiggle it out once you have it in the right spot, and the slide comes off the frame very easily. Like I said, if it wasn't for the trigger bar kind of interrupting the pin, you could probably just push it out with your fingers. Since I have it in my hand, let's look at the finish on the frame. It's finished very nicely. Like I said, it's an alloy frame. but it is hammer forged, so it looks like it was finished extremely well. Very nice rails, generous size, generous length, so it should aid with longevity as well as accuracy because it keeps the slide and barrel from moving too much this way. Standard fire controls, again, it does use a trigger bar externally, goes underneath the side here. When you engage, I don't know if I can really get it, but as you can see, when you engage the safety, it does not allow the trigger to do anything. When you do this, you can release it, and then you have a fully functioning firearm. Let's take a look at the slide. It uses a Browning tilting action with a pretty nice flared barrel to fit inside the bushing on the end. You don't need to remove that. That's how this is more like a Browning. You'll also see that it uses a regular lockup style as opposed to the breech style of more modern pistols. So again, more like a Browning. Very nicely finished barrel with a nice ramp on it. It's important to find a pistol with a nice ramped barrel if you're going to be running self-defense loads. Unless you have a magazine that feeds directly into the chamber, having a ramped barrel that feeds smoothly into the chamber will allow you to run hollow points much more reliably. I've run into 1911s that have no ramped barrel because they're a converted 45 into a 9 basically. They just didn't want to do a whole lot of research and development, and then they tend not to run. I did a video on one up there, you can check it out. It ran round nose no problem, but the minute I put hollow points in it, didn't want to feed. This one should feed them no problem, and we will be testing it at the range because we are taking it out and shooting it. Much like a Browning or a 1911, you are now field stripped. You have your spring, which is not captive, so keep that in mind. Your barrel, your slide lock, and your crossbar. I never know the right word for it, sorry. And your slide. Let's take a look at the inside of the slide. As you can see, it's finished very nicely. The finish goes inside and out. The rails are nice and smooth. This one's been cleaned. I'm going to throw a little bit of extra Lucas Extreme Gun Lube on it just to make sure it runs flawlessly. There's nothing wrong with putting a little bit of extra lube on your pistol. No matter what anybody says, it's better to be smooth than dry. But yeah, overall finish of the slide is very nice. I like the front and rear slide serrations. However, being a very short barrel, I probably wouldn't manipulate it from the front as often. Let's go ahead and reassemble it. Just take your barrel, put it back in. Take your guide rod, put that in. You want to make sure that when you put it in, the guide rod is straight and flat. If you don't, then you're going to have a problem. It's a little bit easier to put it back together than it was to take it apart. You just put it on your rails, slide it back to that position. You don't have to push it all the way back like a 1911, and start the cross pin. When you reassemble the slide, you need to make sure that the firing pin release is down, or the safety is down, so that when you slide the slide back on, it will free up and allow the barrel to come back far enough to start the cross pin. Unlike a 1911, all you got to do is just go ahead and start it and get it in there. It can be a little bit awkward when you're trying to film it at the same time. There we go. And then you pull the slide back to the notch and simply push in. Firearm is reassembled. Yep. Just wanted to make sure real quick. You can go ahead and rack the slide. This one will fire without the magazine in it, so we can make sure, and there we go. What do I think of it? I think it's a very heavy pistol, which I do like because it helps mitigate any kind of recoil. I don't know how they shoot. I've never personally shot one. However, from what I've seen and heard on the internet, it's pretty nice, and we will be testing that theory tomorrow. If you own one of these pistols and you've put some rounds through it, let me know down in the comments what you think of it. I'd be interested to hear that as well. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Maybe consider using my Amazon affiliate link down at the bottom of the screen. I'll put up the stuff I used to make the video, as well as just use it to buy toilet paper and Cheerios, and I'll get a little kickback, and we can keep doing videos like this. So tomorrow I'm going out to the range with Daniel. I'll be doing this, a Glock, a G3, a GSG Firefly, a couple of 22s, and some other stuff. So look forward to some videos coming out. I will do a couple a week until I get caught up. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And like always, I will talk to you later.